We're gonna start by creating a new view. We're gonna hit Command N and we're gonna select SwiftUI view and hit next. We'll set the name to the view to login view and hit enter. I have some assets already added to the project that I will use. So for the authentication I will use this asset. I will put in the description the link to the assets. So let's go back to our login view and let's use a VStack and select the autocomplete. Let me select the leading alignment, and for spacing we're gonna use 30, and here we're gonna put our content. So first we're gonna use the image, so we'll say image and we're gonna pass the name of the image, that is login to. Okay, as you can see the image appeared. We're gonna set it to be resizable and the aspect ratio will be fit. In order to display this image well across all screen sizes, we're gonna use a geometry reader. We're gonna click on this stack and we're gonna select embed in VStack, and here instead of VStack we're gonna say geometry reader, and this will send to the closure a geometry proxy that we're gonna name G and say in. Now we are all set. We have access to the size of the screen, and we're gonna say frame, and we'll use only the height, and we'll say g.size.height divided by 3 because we don't want this to be too big, and we'll make the alignment center. Okay, we're gonna also give it a padding, that's fine, and then we're gonna use another VStack. Also the alignment will be leading and the spacing will be 20. Inside this VStack we're gonna put a text to view, and we'll say text, and the text will be please log in to continue. Okay, we're gonna give it the title tree size. Here I have a typo. Yes, all is good. Let's go and create the custom input. So here we'll say struct with icon. This will conform to the view protocol, and for that we're gonna implement the body, and we're gonna use an HStack, and this field will receive a placeholder that will be string, and by default will be empty. It will receive a value that will be a binding of type string. Okay, it will receive an icon that is an optional string, and by default will be nil, and we're gonna also need to specify if the field is a secure field. So we'll say secure, and this will be a boolean, and by default will be false. Okay, so we defined all the properties for our view, and let's get back and implement it. So we'll use an if let statement. So we'll say icon name equals to icon. The icon will be from SF symbols icons. So we'll say image system name, and we're gonna pass the icon name over here. We'll give it a foreground color of gray. The font will be title 2, and we're gonna give it a frame of width 40 and alignment center. If we have an icon, we're gonna display it. Then we're gonna use an if statement, and we'll say if secure. So if the input is secure, we're gonna use a secure field, pass the placeholder, and for the text we're gonna paste the value, and for this the font will be title 2. Else we're gonna use a normal text field that will also receive the placeholder, and as text we'll use the value, and we'll also use title 2 as size. Okay, then let's give a padding, leading and trailing of 8. To create the underline, we're gonna use a divider like this. We're gonna use a group to put them together, and now we have our input with icon, and let's use here another VStack. Let's set it let's set the alignment to leading and spacing of 15, and this side we're gonna put our input with icon. So we'll say input with icon from here, and for the placeholder we're gonna say enter your email like this, and we're gonna need to create some state variables in order to store the values of the inputs, and we're gonna use the state property wrapper. We're gonna say state var username, and this will be a string, and by default will be empty, and we're gonna do the same, and we're gonna create another state variable for the password. Okay, and now we can pass this as a binding, and the icon that we'll use, it will be the envelope icon. Okay, and here we don't need the secure field. Let's use another time our view, and this time let's create a password field. And as placeholder we're gonna use enter your password. We're gonna pass the password binding, and as icon we're gonna pass the lock, and for secure we're gonna pass true. So let's hit resume. Looks pretty well. Let's also add a background to our login view, and we're gonna use a Z-stack, and we're gonna use the color view, and we'll use a gray like this. Let's add a padding also. Let's add a spacer to push it up, and also it seems I missed something. We don't have the title, so let's embed this into a VStack with the same alignment and spacing like this. Okay, let's add the title like this. Let's give it the font of title. So let's create that custom button also here. We'll use the struct, and we're gonna name this button primary button. We're gonna implement the body, this view will receive a label that will be a string, and by default we'll have the same label as the default button, and we'll also receive an action. We'll use a button. We're gonna create a special view for the label. For the action, self.action. So basically we'll call the method that is passed to us. For the label, we're gonna create a custom design. So we'll say rounded rectangle, and we'll say corner radius of 5. The fill will be black, so color dot black, and we're gonna use an overlay, and inside here we're gonna use a text view, and we're gonna pass the label. The foreground color of the label will be white, like this, and the font will be title 2. Okay, we'll remove this, and we are almost done. Now let's use our button. Here we're gonna use an hashtag like this, and we'll say primary button, and for the label we'll say login, and the action will be just a print statement. We'll say print you pressed on the login button. Okay, let's hit save, let's hit resume, and yeah, the button looks big, but let's use the frame, and we'll say width, and we're gonna use our geometry proxy size dot width minus, let's say, 100, and the height, let's give it 50. Now it looks pretty good, but let's make this hashtag stretch also. Let's say width, we'll say width g.size dot width minus 30. Looks good. Let's create a link for the sign up page. So we're gonna use another hashtag, and first we're gonna use a text view, and we'll say don't have an account, and here we're gonna use now a button, a normal one, and here for the moment we'll just print you pressed on sign up. Let's stretch this hashtag like the other one. I will just copy and paste this part over here, and we could also use an offset of y minus 20 to push it a little bit up, and it looks good.